What's up, guys? Coming straight back to the video. In today's video, what if Nier and Mello was in Total Drama Island? So let's begin. So Mello's put on Screaming Gophers with Nier and Killer Bass, since I think it makes it more challenging, since Mello tends to act rather than really thinking, and Nier tends to think before really acting. They would both jump since they wouldn't want to be seen like they would both refuse to jump since they wouldn't want to seem like chickens. Mello might be more inclined to jump because you wouldn't want to be insufficient to Mello, want to be seen as weak. But unlike Light and L, I feel like they wouldn't be as aggressive to each other. To be honest, Killer Bass lose. And everyone votes for Ezekiel for saying his comment. Because Nier wouldn't agree with that. I think he even agrees to get rid of Ezekiel. So I think Ezekiel goes. Now in episode 3, Heather steals Eva's on free play, except this time, Nier and Mello both notice and call her out, meaning she puts it back. Eva would thank Nier, and Nier said it isn't a problem. However, they actually would make an alliance here, since Nier and Mello would overhear Heather working with Lindsay and Beth, which makes Nier starts to consider his allies. Ultimately, he agrees to work with Eva, since 1, she's the strongest player, and 2, he needs to get rid of people that might not help him socially, which is Nier's weakness is not having great social connections, and Mello is. However, Mello would ultimately come to the conclusion to add 2 people in his group, and he chooses the 2 people that Heather wouldn't expect, being Noah and Justin. Noah because he's really smart like him, and he actually thinks Noah could challenge him in intellect. And Justin because it's Justin. Mello points out that they make an alliance together. It makes a deal to take an alliance together. It makes a deal to take them to the final 3. On the condition they get rid of Heather first. Killer Bass still lose since Mello wins the challenge for his team since he eats chocolate and she would do that same thing. And I think Nier would be close, but I don't think he'd be able to match Mello. To be honest, Killer Bass lose, and here it's between Harold and Duncan. But I think Nier would rather get rid of Duncan over Harold, considering the fact he wouldn't like his bullying towards Duncan. And although mildly frustrated and would take Eva a bit of convincing, I do think she gets rid of Duncan here. However, you could argue that she'd actually go for Courtney in this timeline, since Courtney isn't very good here. But to be honest, Nier has no real reason to get rid of Courtney, and you'll kind of see why this was a better decision for Nier's part. Duncan is eliminated. Now, in episode 4, this episode is a bit different since dodgeball. Noah actually competes here this time, since Mello points out the logic of the situation and even says to him if he doesn't, he'll just vote him off anyways. So, Killer Bass still wins since Eva's here and Harold ultimately win the challenge. They go to elimination. Now, Mello gets his group to actually target Heather in this episode, since she's the biggest threat that's not immune. Heather has Owen and Lindsay, but she's able to convince Lashana, Trent, and Gwen to actually target Heather. And even if Cody votes for Trent, that's still 6 votes to 5. So he ultimately targets Heather in this episode. Now, in episode 5 is the talent show. Nier and Mello don't do much here. However, I think in this episode, the events play very similar, since Harold still wins the challenge for his team. Gophers go to elimination. Mello would actually agree with Noah to get rid of Justin because of his looks, and is able to convince Beth, Lindsay, Owen, and Izzy on their side. However, Gwen, Trent, and Lashana actually vote together, with Noah making a deal with Cody to vote for Trent when the time is right. So Justin gets voted off like normal. Actually, in fact, Heather does the same thing. I see no reason why Mello nor Noah could do the same thing they did, but get rid of Justin. Now, in episode 6 is the Sucky Outdoors. Katie and Sadie still get lost, and Nier would actually notice him being missing, since he probably wouldn't care enough to actually wait for them. Mello would actually agree with Noah to start making more allies, and Noah makes a secret alliance with Owen and Izzy, with Mello picks up on, but doesn't really say anything since Gwen, Trent, and Lashana are a trio. Ultimately, Katie still gets voted off. Now, episode 7 is Phobia Factor, so there are some differences here. So let's begin. Now, Sadie passes with Eva passing her worm fear. DJ passes the snakes. Harold fails the ninjas. Jeff fails. Bridget fails. Tyler fails the chickens. And then Near and Courtney. So Near, we don't know what his fear is since there's nothing that indicates his fear. But I think he could pass considering the fact I don't think he's the type of person to really throw a challenge here, so I do think he'd want to be on the good side. On top of the fact he probably want to be the good side of Courtney, and one a legit reason to get her out. Courtney still fails. Like canon, if not even worse, since Duncan's not here to actually encourage her. Beth and Lindsay pass with Izzy and Owen. Noah is dulls and he fails. Cody fails. Lashana fails. Gwen and Trent pass. Mello actually doesn't need to do his fear since Killer Bass already lose, but I feel like he probably passes. It's inferior to Mello, I think, or something, but I'm not quite sure what his fate would be, but I ultimately think he could pass. Killer Bass lose. Now, at first glance, you might think it's Tyler, but I think Nero can actually pull the numbers to convince Eva, Harold, Sadie, and Tyler to actually vote for Courtney, since not only she cost him the challenge, but in this timeline, Eva wouldn't really like Courtney, neither would Deer, and would want a good reason to get out Courtney here. Since not only she cost him the challenge, but she's the only person who could challenge Deer if everything's with her intellect and strength. And they actually have Eva for that, so they don't need Courtney right now. So I think everyone targets Courtney in this episode, since Near makes a deal with Tyler to take him to the final three. Harold wouldn't be a big fan of Courtney, neither would Sadie, so they're kind of the outsiders, since they would actually agree to all band together in this episode and get rid of Courtney. Now, episode 8 is up the creek, and Bridget would take Sadie, Jeff and Bridget, since I don't think Bridget would want to take Eva. Eva and Tyler, which leaves Near and Harold. Noah and Mello start thinking, but Cody goes with Gwen. Lindsay and Beth. Lashana and Izzy. Mello and Trent, which leaves Owen and Noah. To be honest, Mello would do the exact same thing that Cody does in the results, try and get him to just talk to Gwen, and would each figure out pretty quickly that Trent and Gwen are into each other. Noah and Owen start becoming friends in this episode, and they're pretty close friends. Ultimately, Beth still picks up the Tiki statue since Mello would have been too distracted. I feel like in this episode, Mello would actually tell Beth about the cursed idol, so she never picks it up in this timeline. Ultimately, Harold stacks that both the Ols and Izzy is an idea, with Killer Bass winning the challenge. Izzy still gets chased down with the CRM. Now, in episode 9 is with Deer Hunter. Now, Cody does not get mauled by a bear since Heather is not in the game. So the Deers and the Hunters are Lashana, Owen, Lindsay, and Beth, with everyone else being Deer, since Mello and Noah would just join them. So Jeff, Bridget, Harold, and Deer are all Hunters. DJ and Eva both win the challenge for their team, so I see no reason why they couldn't pull this off as well as Tyler. To be honest, go for elimination. Now, Cody is made up with Gwen and Trent, so the four of them vote together. Mello and Near are with Owen and convince Lindsay and Beth to vote for the other. They ultimately decide to gang up on Trent, since he's likely the weakest link in their alliance, and Gwen and Trent are a couple here. So, although he wouldn't want to, he would agree with Noah, Owen, Lindsay, and Beth to vote for Gwen, since Gwen has 3 votes with Trent and Cody. And Trent and Cody would probably not be as loyal to Lashana when the time's right. So they actually vote for Gwen here. Now, so even though it makes more sense to get rid of Owen, I think Mello and Near would think logically about the decision, so they get rid of Gwen, since Noah convinces Mello to keep Owen for strategic reasons, even though Noah wants to keep Owen because they're best friends. Episode 10's cooking challenge, to be honest, Near would actually volunteer DJ as the head chef because he's really good at cooking. I think, to be honest, Tyler and Howard would be a duo with Near and Eva, Tyler and DJ, which leaves Jeff and DJ. Beth and Lindsay, Noah, Owen, Lashana, Mello, Trent, Cody. Owen still eats the ribs, and ultimately, Mello agrees with Trent, Cody, and Lashana, Beth, and Lindsay to vote for Owen. Noah realizes Mello must have flipped and starts questioning his loyalty. Episode 11 is the Who You Can Trust challenge. Now, the pairs is so different in this version, I have to do the random generator to decide the pairs. So the first challenge is rock climbing, and it's Noah who's climbing Beth Holding with DJ and Near. DJ and Nier get the point since Noah is a worse climber than Gwen, and he ultimately loses. The blowfish would be Lashana and Lindsay, and Gwen, Jeff, and Mello. Ultimately, Lashana gets sent to the infirmary after accidentally eating the blowfish. The next challenge is the blind trapeze, which is Trent and Cody, Harold and Sadie. Harold and Sadie win since Cody can't carry Trent, and he wouldn't even try to be held by Cody, so Lashana still gets sent to the infirmary. The next challenge is the blind William Tell with Eva and Tyler, and I decided to do the random number generator for who gets Mello's partner since he's down a player, so I'll do that, and I also decide the number generator for the final challenge since Eva and Tyler does the blind William Tell, so let's get started. So to be brutally honest, in this episode, Mello and Noah both do the blind trapeze with Tyler and Eva. Tyler and Eva win the challenge, meaning that it's 4 points. It wouldn't even get to the blind toboggan. DJ and Jeff fail, but Killer Bass already wins and they have 4 points. In the original timeline, they'd actually have 4 points to their 5. So, go for elimination. Now, Lashana would want Lindsay out, and although Noah and Mello have started to make up in this timeline, they agree they need Lindsay and Beth for one more vote. Since there's still a 3-person alliance, next time elimination, let's get rid of Lashana, they can actually get rid of Beth then, and then they can vote either. So, ultimately, they actually agree to target Lashana, since she's the biggest threat that's not immune, and she's the best in challenges. As proven today, Lashana, Cody, and Trent vote for Lindsay. Mello and Noah also vote for Lindsay, since she injured one of their teammates. But they actually agree to go together and vote for Lashana. But Lindsay and Beth both like Lashana, so they come to the conclusion to get rid of Lashana and explain that she's going to vote for Lindsay. Now, in episode 12 is Basics Training. So, we get on to the challenge with Basics Training. Chef does his boot camp. Lindsay tags out first. In the dancing. And so does Sadie. Okay. So, holding, that's the canoe over your head. Cody would tag out. Or Jeff's not messing with House this episode, but he makes it. Turn word essay, DJ fails on Trent around this point, and so does Beth. And I think Noah and Mel actually pass. I think Tyler and Eva just about pass as well. But Jeff making the foul on Bridget fails around the outside course. Noah fails the outside course, and Eva and Tyler beat Mello. So go for sort of elimination. However, Mello and Noah have a decision made because they're the smartest 2 players left in the game. They could either get rid of Cody and Trent's duo or Lindsay and Beth. But I think they ultimately agree to go for Lindsay, since Lindsay and Beth are a duo, and Beth has been shown to be the stronger of the two. So I think, to be honest, they actually go for Lindsay, since she's the weakest member and did the worst in the challenge today. And Cody and Trent both agree, since next time elimination, they can convince Beth to get rid of Cody and Trent, and point out that Cody and Trent would definitely choose her when it comes to the finale, and ultimately gets rid of Lindsay. Since Beth never has the cursed statue in this timeline, since Mello would have warned her about it. Now, in episode 13 is X Tremor Torture. So Trent will be jumping out the plane at DJ. Trent still gets hurt in Lycan Cannon, he misses with DJ passing. So the next challenge is... So in this episode, with Mello going on the boost and Jeff passes since Mello refuses to go on it. The skiing would now be Noah against Harold, with Cody driving and Nier driving. However, Cody would never sabotage Harold's ski, and in this timeline, Harold actually wins, since there's no reason for him to wipe out. Gopher's got elimination, and Noah and Mello both agree to actually team up with Beth, and points out that Cody and Trent would choose each other in the final 2. Now, even though Cody and Trent would try to convince Beth to vote for Mello, I feel like Mello would have been nice to Beth throughout the season, so they ultimately agreed to vote for Trent, since out of the 2, he's the most physically strong, and in this timeline, they actually think Cody would be a more valuable ally to keep going forward over Trent, who probably wouldn't work with them for getting rid of Gwen, and I feel like they can definitely make Cody easier to convince than convincing Trent. Now, in episode 14 is the eating challenge, it's guys versus girls. Now, this episode will be an elimination to even the numbers. However, it's Gophers versus Killer Bass in terms of eating. Now, in the actual eating challenge, Mello should be able to win since he literally eats chocolate, and Noah and Cody, Beth eats disgustingly in action. So she's able to win since I think everybody else here does terrible, even though they have more eaters. And more eaters. So in this episode, Harold does terrible, Eva. Everybody does terrible. I feel like Killer Bass got elimination. Since DJ does okay, but ultimately everybody else fails. So I feel like here, Nier has Eva on his side, and Tyler is friends with them. So it's down to Harold and Sadie, since they're all friends. Nier would actually get everyone to target Jeff, since he would worry it's a popularity contest. So I do think everyone targets Eva, since she's the strongest player left, and in this timeline, she's very close to Nier, which of course would annoy Nier losing his friend, but ultimately, Eva tells him thanks for being a friend and wins the season. So now we're at the merge, and Izzy still returns since Chris, she never officially got eliminated, so Chris says that's the reason she returns in this episode. And now we're at the merge. However, in No Pain, No Game, Nier and Mello tried to have a friendly competition until we fail. Tyler wins the challenge since he can handle pain the best, and now we have elimination. Mello convinces Nier in his alliance since they're rivals and wants to take Nier to the finale. They're able to convince Cody to their side, however, Harold is with them since he's friends with Nier, and so is Tyler. So Sadie is also with them, and to the end, they all actually vote for Izzy since she's the biggest threat that's not immune, and they just agree to get rid of her, since she's the only person that doesn't deserve to be in the game. Episode 6 is No Pain, No Game, so Beth, Nier, Tyler, Harold, Mello, Noah, and Cody, and Sadie. The only 2, 4, 6, 8. I decided to do the random number generator to determine who would actually get the immunity key that was Heather's in the original. In this episode, Sadie gets the key and she'll be able to get it from Chef, so she gains immunity. Now, Nier and Mello are both in a bit of trouble since Jeff, DJ, and Bridget would actually vote for Mello for voting out Courtney. Beth, Noah, Harold, Tyler, and Cody actually vote for Jeff, since Jeff and Bridget are a couple. And without Duncan's negative influence, I do think they would have got together much faster. On top of the fact in this version, they would just want to get rid of Jeff since he would win the popularity contest, and definitely the most physically athletic player that remains. Now, episode 17 is where we have Hiding Be Sneaky, with Nier and Mello both hiding under the water, similar to how Lashana does in the original. Ultimately, DJ's hiding on the roof, and Noah will call him out since he wants to win immunity and try to get one above Nier and Mello. Nier and Mello both win the challenge since it's a tie between the two of them, and Tyler also wins immunity by racing to the end. To be honest, Nier is undecided and actually argues to get. Now Nier can't get rid of Noah, so he has more allies. However, they actually target between the two Bridget, since she did bad, on top of the fact she's very good at sports in this episode, and Nier and Mello both agree to get rid of Bridget since he just makes more sense to get rid of over DJ, since he hasn't really done anything bad in this episode. Bridget is kind of also a big threat. Now, episode 18 is the bike challenge, and to be honest, Nier and Mello both knows it's probably rigged. DJ wipes out in the first round along with Tyler. And then Nier purposely wipes out as well as Mello since they wouldn't want to fail. Everybody else makes it to the second round with ultimately Harold and Cody crossing the finish line with Noah. Sadie comes last since Beth, I think, will cross before Sadie, and due to unfair ruling in this episode, Sadie would actually be eliminated. In the Hill Climb Screamer episode, everybody gets across. I think DJ still gets the worst death since he would do terrible. Beth can't scream, so she just gets caught. Harold and Cody get caught together as well as Tyler, and Nier and Mello would fight the fake Psycho Killer winning immunity with Noah fighting the real one. In episode 20 is where we have the animal buddies, and to be honest, Noah starts making moves to try and get out Nier and Mello. To be honest, in this episode is the animal buddies, and neither of them's winning the challenge here. But now I think Beth still would win here and get the immunity feast. Tyler is too. Tyler is loyal to Mello, but this down leaves to who get the vote for. Now Harold and Tyler both like Mello, so both agreed to vote for Near. Noah actually also votes for Near, but Cody and Beth actually vote with Mello, since they're his ally. And Near, meaning these three vote together with these four. Now, they think it's a popularity contest at this point, so I think they actually lower it to Tyler, since he's the biggest threat, on top of the fact Noah is really smart. So Near and Mello come to the conclusion to actually vote for Beth in this episode, since she's probably the biggest threat left that remains to win the season. So they actually both agree to get rid of Beth here. Now, episode 6 is 21 is tried by Triathlon. To be honest, I have to randomize the pairs, since in this episode, the pairs are completely random to the original. So, Near and Tyler, Noah, Harold, Cody, and Mello. The eating challenge would be Mello and Cody. The race to Boney Island would be Tyler and Near. Remember, the elimination order would be close, but I give the edge to Near since he's smarter than Mello, so I do think he does better here. So him and Tyler get immunity. Now, they think it's a popularity contest at this point, so everyone actually targets Cody. The reason why is Cody will actually win a popularity contest, and I think Cody's generally liked for everyone, so I think they agree to get rid of Cody here. Now, episode 22 is just a normal vote since there's nobody that obviously likes them. So let's go through the process. For who votes who. So the first person is Cody, and out of these group of people, he didn't really know Tyler. He knew Noah. Didn't know Harold, and knew Mello. Mello was obviously his closest ally. So it's whoever Cody wants to eliminate. And I think by default he would pick Near, just because Near Mello or pick Noah, since he feels out of the two, he wasn't really friends with Noah. Beth is the next to pick, and I think she actually targets Mello. DJ picks Near, Sadie picks Tyler, Bridget picks Harold, Jeff picks Harold, Izzy picks Mello, Eva picks Near, Trent picks Noah, Lindsay picks Mello, Lashana picks, who to vote off? Tyler would pick Mello as well. Owen picks Near. Gwen picks Near. Mello, Courtney. Katie would pick Tyler. Justin picks Noah. Heather would actually pick Noah. Duncan would pick Harold since he doesn't like him, which leads Ezekiel, who also picks Noah. Meaning it's a tie between Mello and Noah. So they are actually the two in trouble, since they both get 5 votes each. So the way I decided to end this episode was actually have the other campers in the camp choose between Mello and Noah who they were going to vote for. Nero would choose to vote for Noah because he's friends with Mello and would definitely want to take him to the finale. Tyler would actually vote with Harold to get rid of Noah as well, since Mello was their former teammate, so they would think Noah just doesn't deserve to win out of the 5 of them. Now, in episode 23 is where Tyler makes Mr. Coconut, but it's a non-elimination. Now, in episode 24 is where we have are they there Yeti? So it's basically Near and Mello against Tyler and Harold. Now, to be honest, Mello and Near both win with better navigational skills, on top of the fact they're just a lot smarter people, can easily trick Tyler and Harold. To be honest, I do think Harold gets eliminated, since I think Harold won the challenge. Tyler would actually have done pretty well in the boot camp episode, so I think Harold goes here. In episode 25 of Triple Dog Dare You, and Near and Mello actually decide to tag team, use each other's freebies to actually get rid of Tyler. I think it's very close, but I do think ultimately Tyler gets eliminated. After a dare he just can't do, I think he does get eliminated in this episode, so I do think he gets voted off. The finale is here. So most people probably wouldn't really care between Nier and Mello who they support, so I imagine everyone who was on their team supports them. I think it's very close. They managed to cross the obstacle course, get around the same time. They each get winning endings. I think it actually makes more sense for Nier to win over Mello, since I feel like Nier could trick Mello, definitely get across faster, as Mello tends to act quicker than Nier. So that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. This is the mission to able to go on how Nier and Mello could win Total Drama Island. This is one way they could win. I did one of L. If you guys want a part 2 of Nier and Mello, let me know. Thank you guys for watching. And yeah, peace and farewell.